Warrior, breaking news. Let's get to it on this Tuesday afternoon. Diddy, or I like to call him Dirty Diddy, will not take the stand. We are in the 7th week of this New York City federal trial. And you know what? We had about, close to 6 weeks of the prosecution bringing on their witnesses, testimony. And you know what? Diddy's team, Dirty Diddy, Dirty Diddy degenerate, Dirty Diddy degenerate defense. His team rested. They have no defense. They presented, this just happened, so it's breaking news. They presented a couple of statements. Diddy also told the judge that basically he was not testifying, taking the stand of his own free will. Nobody told him anything. And it makes you wonder, what are the jurors thinking? Why would you not have some witnesses that would, attest to your character? Perhaps some employees of Bad Boy Entertainment that would come on and say, money's flowed through Bad Boy for these freak-offs, king nights, hotel nights, it kept changing. So here's the thing. I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be one. I find this actually good news. Originally, the defense team had asked for 4 weeks when the trial began for their, what you would call rebuttal, right? Now, as of yesterday, they asked for 2 days, and they stood up today and finished it off. So now we wait. We wait for a verdict. And here's what I hope and pray. We at the Warriors work with so many victims and survivors of all forms of sexual exploitation. They have been following this case extremely closely because, frankly, the case regarding Epstein really went nowhere. There was no closure. Victims were kind of left out in the lurch, so to speak. Yeah. We know there were payoffs and this and that and lawsuits, but overall, because many have reported to me, they just wanted to see justice done. That power, that dynamic of a powerful person with money over a vulnerable person. So let's fast forward now to Dirty Diddy. Victims, survivors, not even of his, all over, of sexual exploitation, are wanting him to be held accountable. And I am hoping and praying, no matter what goes down, that those jurors, in their minds, people are visual, and they will remember that video of Cassie being dragged by the hoodie, the hood, dragged by her hair, kicked in the stomach, kicked towards her head, also how she was sneaking out of the hotel in her bare feet. And we know from other women and girls trying to escape, they don't put shoes on because shoes make noise. She was trying to put her shoes on at the elevator. He caught her. He came running out in the towel. I hope they remember his kicking, his pulling her on her back. I hope they remember she just was so quiet and still because she didn't want to enrage him further. He would beat on her more. I hope the jurors remember, frankly, those text messages and conversations. And on top of it, we also learned from communications that Dirty Diddy was nickel and diming it. You heard me right. The so-called sex workers. But as I pointed out on my hit today with Nancy Grace, you can see that this evening at 7 p.m. and also repeated at midnight. I said, we at the Warriors do not use those two words, sex worker. We don't believe sex is work. Work is sex. We know from our studies that there are about 91 to 97% of people in the sex trade are forced, or they ended up there through fraud or coercion, and that is the definition of trafficking. But I also like to always point out forced servitude, and these text messages show how he got, for instance, Jane, one of his girlfriends, right, to different hotels under the false pretenses of they'd be alone, and it turned into those wild, crazy, I don't want to call them parties or orgies or just disgusting displays of I don't know what. So this is, to me, a bit shocking, but good news that, they had nobody Nobody, very risky. They had nobody to come out in his defense. Nobody to say what a great guy. Nobody to dispute monies from the company being used to pay those in the sex trade. It's a mess. So now we wait for justice. This being Tuesday afternoon, we'll see what happens tomorrow, Wednesday. I am sure by the end of the week we will have a verdict. And we at the Warriors hope, no matter what, the charges are sex trafficking, also transporting people for the sake of prostitution. I think that one has a good chance, since we do have records of people being flown in from other states, flown in internationally, monies being exchanged. We do have, I have to ask in all of this, for instance, his right-hand woman, Christina Coram, received immunity, not testifying. I believe she received immunity. Of course, she put out a statement about a month ago. She knew nothing of this. But then there were all those text messages. There were text messages between her and Cassie, between her and, our Jane Doe. So nobody could get on the stand. But she also must be held accountable. I don't care about this immunity. She was there. She worked with Diddy for 10 years. Women complained. She blew them off. But let me remind you, we only heard from a handful of those witnesses, right? There were hundreds and hundreds of people involved. Yes, some of them too embarrassed. Some of them paid off, undoubtedly. Some of them will never come forward. But we only heard from a couple of people. But we saw enough, didn't we? Between those videos and the jurors seeing these freak-off videos. And that's the other thing. Dirty Diddy in court, according to our various people in the court, we had Lauren Conlon. We also had Tisa Tells, straight from the courtroom. He acted Diddy. One day he was very gleeful. One day he was kind of rubbing his hands together, smiling at people. One day he was craning his neck as the jurors only, they each had their own monitors to see these horrible videos. Who knows what was on them? And he was craning his neck to see if he could see and listen. Sick stuff. So we at the Warriors, there is no room for people like Dirty Diddy. I'm sorry. There's no room for the R. Kellys, any of these people, the Harvey Weinsteins, the Jeffrey Epsteins, and there's a whole lot more. But we will wait, and we will seek justice and hope and pray for justice for not only victims of Dirty Diddy. And I remind you, I don't want to hear again they were of age, they were not minors, they did this willingly. You must wrap your minds around what is forced servitude, what is, gaslighting, what is post-traumatic stress disorder, what is trauma bonding. This all goes along in the sex trade. And I firmly believe that many of these women suffered from that. So let us stand by, let us wait. And I have a feeling when we meet again, we will be clapping our hands outside of the New York court room that Dirty Diddy is currently waiting for the fate. Will he be locked away for life? We'll see. Community Creates Change is our hashtag. Please honor it. You can always write to me, Lynn at lynswarriors.org. Do not forget, make sure you're subscribed to these videos. A lot of you are not. We need numbers. We need to get into the algorithms and also become a member of Lynn's Warriors for a mere $2.99 a month. That $2.99 helps us so much going into our educational programs, into our travel. I am in DC extensively, just into supporting those survivors behind the scenes that need a little food money or transportation. Be there, help us. And when you wake up each and every day, go out and be a warrior.